Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this Avanet Academy and Haddon Hill Group webinar on ways we can help you be successful with IBM Pure Application. I'm Matt Fox, and I lead Avanet Academy for Americas. Also presenting today is Julian Foster from Haddon Hill, our lead instructor for IBM PureApp, author of the IBM Red Book on creating composite application pattern models for IBM PureApp, and one of the top experts on PureApp worldwide. IBM PureApp is a very powerful system that can drive great efficiencies and lower costs for IBM software clients. It's a game changer, and as such, it requires companies using PureApp to change up their game a bit. PureApp requires different approaches to managing and supporting your IBM software systems. IBM and partners like Avnet and Haddon Hill Group do a great job of getting you started. But for long-term success, you also need to build your internal skills and capabilities around PureApp. That's the focus of the webinar today. How can we help you develop and grow your internal skills to successfully manage and expand your PureApp systems? We'll start off with a brief overview of Avanet Academy, an IBM global training provider with deep expertise around IBM technologies. We'll then go through our training roadmap for PureApp clients. After that, I'll hand it off to Julian, who will give you a high-level view of the various topics and areas we would cover in our training offerings, followed by a short demo of the PureApp Image Construction and Composition Tool, otherwise known as ICCT. First, a bit on Avanet Academy. In July 2013, IBM announced that it would no longer be delivering technical training on its products. IBM still develops official courseware for technologies across the portfolio, but it selected 4 global training providers to deliver training, including Avnet. Avnet Academy delivers training across the IBM portfolio of software and hardware in 57 countries. We are the only IBM global training provider who is also an IBM Global Systems Integrator, helping customers worldwide to develop, deploy, and manage solutions on IBM software. Some of you may be familiar with Ascendant Technology, an IBM-focused integrator that Avnet acquired in 2012. Through that acquisition and subsequent growth, we are now 650 IBM consultants and trainers worldwide. All of this supported by the strength of Avnet, a truly global company, number 117 on the Fortune 500. Beyond that, we have a tremendous network of IBM partners worldwide who resell nearly $4 billion in IBM software and hardware annually through Avnet as their distributor. We work with the top experts in various IBM technologies, like Haddon Hill Group, who have consultants and instructors with experience implementing IBM solutions in complex environments. So what does that mean for our customers? Because our instructors have real-world experience deploying IBM solutions in complex environments, they can bring context and advice to classes outside of what's in the courseware. Our client's goal isn't to take a class. It's to learn a new technology. And the supplemental experience of our instructors helps them do that. This is one of the primary reasons that we have top instructor quality ratings, the highest among the IBM global training providers. Specifically with PureApp, both Avnet and Haddon Hill Group have been on the PureApp Advisory Council since its inception. We've already delivered training and consulting services for many of IBM's top PureApp customers. We offer specialized training classes in a variety of models. We have a robust public schedule of classes you can join in classrooms around the world or as a remote online participant, saving the travel cost and time. We can also deliver any of your training courses as a private class for just your team, either on-site at your facilities, at one of our facilities, or online, which works well for geographically dispersed teams. We can customize training and combine with follow-on mentoring and consulting engagements to drive real adoption and understanding of the solutions. I liken that to the proverb, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. But whoever learned to fish in a classroom? By combining classroom training with jumpstart engagements in your environment, we don't just teach you to fish, we take you out fishing. Here you have our training roadmap for IBM PureApp. Normally we recommend students start off with an 8-hour self-paced class that provides a PureApp technical overview. If certain students already have a solid understanding of PureApp, this self-paced class may not be needed. However, one of the greatest challenges in instructor-led training is when students in the class have a wide variation in their level of experience. This self-paced class helps ensure everyone enters the instructor-led classes with a solid foundation. Next, we recommend instructor-led training, either as a private or a public class. There are two instructor-led courses we commonly teach. One is focused on managing and administering the PureApp system, and the other is focused on pattern development. In some organizations, there are different teams doing development and administration, but there are some students who will have their hands in both and will want to take both classes. When I turn it over to Julian in a few minutes, he's going to dive deeper on the specific topics covered in these courses. These instructor-led courses include hands-on labs, so once you learn a concept covered in a module, you get hands-on with that concept in your own lab environment, specifically built to support the course. Following that, many customers will want to take their experience out of the lab and get hands-on in their own environment, but with the guidance and assistance of an expert. This is where the PureApp Jumpstart from Avnet and Haddon Hill Group comes in. Jumpstarts are typically 2 to 6 weeks in length, tailored to the specific areas where you want to focus. After completing their training roadmap, many students like to document their experience through certification. IBM offers a Certified PureApp System Administrator certification after students pass Test 800. You can find more information at ibm.com/certify. Before I turn it over to Julian, I'd just like to sum up things with some specific actions you can take to help ensure your success with IBM PureApp. When you're budgeting for your investment in PureApp, remember to budget for training and enablement of your staff. You can contact Avanet Academy to discuss your specific needs, and we can help you build a roadmap for developing and maintaining skills in-house. Now I'd like to turn it over to Julian Foster, who will take you through some of the main topics we covered in our PureApp training courses.
Hello, my name is Julian Foster, and just want to go ahead and move on to the next slide. And we just want to help you get the most out of your iPads. So when you buy the piece of equipment, you know, now what? How do I actually generate some return on my investment? And so first off, you have to understand what the tool is so that you can apply the tool to the correct job, and usually that'll be part of the sales operation. I just want to get it clear here in this webinar so that you'll better understand the demonstration in just a few minutes. So all the hardware and software inside of it have been factory optimized. They're going to be the top best of breed equipment, and it's going to be fully wired up and connected for you at the layer 1 layer of the OSI, the actual bottom physical layer. You won't have to do any, racking and stacking. And so it's set for efficiency across the entire rack. It's built for virtualization. Okay, there is a unified monitoring and management and maintenance piece, a portal, the management piece that you'll be interacting with. You go to the same place to keep doing, your different activities. You don't have 5 different servers that you have to log in and 4 different ways that you have to remember each interface and how it works. So it gets a little simpler. And the application and data are integrated in the same runtime, so that speeds things up. And the use patterns, the idea of keeping all of this metadata around the actual binaries so that it can deploy and configure itself. And that generates standards, and there you have repeatability, and you can actually start to program and script around things like that for your special needs inside of, everybody has their own need inside their own operations. So just what are the different cloud service levels, right? So now that you have this tool, what am I going to go try and do? And you can address these 3 specific cloud service levels with the PureApp quite readily. So the most basic, and at the bottom is the infrastructure as a service, or you're just delivering the machinery, right? Yeah, it can definitely perform infrastructure as a service, just deploying operating systems that are bare, and you go adjust them as you need and capture them back, and then you can use that as your golden master and keep deploying on. And platform as a service is a step up from that. That's the most common use for Pure, is that, hey, we have middleware that we want to deploy as well, and we want it to come out pre-configured and ready to accept my application. And then, of course, there's the software as a service, which you can do as well by delivering your applications along with the middleware through virtual apps to provide the service to the end user, such as Gmail is a software as a service. You just go use it. You don't want to know about what's behind it. As the user, you're just paying for or wanting to use the service of the software. And so you can deliver those three levels with the PureApp. So it's divided into two different pieces logically for management. There's the workload management and the system management. And the workload management, it has to deal with the virtual images, the patterns, which are metadata around the actual images, and the pattern dev tooling. How do you create these patterns and how to deploy them, the tools to get them out and get them into your cloud instance and manage them. And then limited monitoring, if you're in comparison to something like the Tivoli monitoring, which it does offer as well, but the in the box monitoring is sufficient to realize that maybe there's a problem you need to go more deeply monitor and check out at a dashboard type level. So the separation of duties is the real reason why this is done. So you're applying a tighter granularity to the roles and the user groups that you'll be creating on the box to log in with, and you can hook that up to your enterprise login service as well, like LDAP, Active Directory, etc. So but the workloads that whole panel will really just give you access to manage, your workloads, your middleware that you're putting out, your application that you're putting out, or your infrastructure that you're putting out, and the topologies around them, and how to create service level agreements so that you can make the scaling policies and the JVM policies and things like that function for you, and you create your own filters around those. So it's typically not administrative work for the system. You might be able to do administrative work on the systems that you've deployed, but not the actual system itself in general, other than maybe adding and deleting patterns and images and etc. But not like doing firmware or creating cloud work groups or things like that, which would be on the service side, and more administrative type of access would be needed there. And so you would get the ability to create and allocate your resources and to enforce service policies to basically say, hey, these set of users can only use these limited resources, and if they need more, they can come ask me. And there's also an auditing role that can be accessed through the system panel to do your corporate monitoring and things like that, and to be able to get in the logs and record them, and you can have those logs automatically shipped off to an external server so that it's being backed up continuously, so you don't have to worry about if something happens to my management server, I'm losing my audit logs that are required for high regulatory businesses. So the pattern development tools are, as we're looking at soon, is the ICCT, is the image construction tool. So this is how I'm actually going to modify and create, even from scratch, my own images and images that IBM supplies me that may or may not fit my organization to my pleasure. In other words, I might need things installed slightly differently, or I might need things changed up just slightly from what the pattern that IBM delivers, and these tools will help you do that, as well as the virtual pattern development kit. This will help you develop your own plugins and your own pattern types and virtual applications, and it will also give you a sandbox. So the virtual pattern development kit is actually a virtual machine itself that you deploy, and it mimics an iPaaS, and you just provide it with a hypervisor to deploy machines to. In this case, it's ESX. We just have an ESX server that we're using to host the virtual pattern development kit and be the cloud for it as well. And that way it frees up the PureApp resources for a more business-like testing or whatever of the applications that we have developed. But it gives me a safe place to go do my development and not have to worry about damaging or doing anything crazy on the iPaaS that someone would not like. And then there's the pattern development kit, which is the plugin development kit, pardon me, which is the actual piece that will allow you to go in and tweak the plugins and do the actual coding of the plugins to create the virtual applications that you are going to deploy. So virtual images are actual HPEs that are delivered from IBM, and HPE is a hypervisor image. And so the hypervisor image has one large binary inside of it, which is actually a tarball of OVA, and that OVA contains a file called an OVF, and you put those things together. The OVF is the descriptor of what all of these other files have in relation to the binaries you're trying to employ, and that creates the actual image. But the image may have several personalities, which is how it's being termed by IBM, and each one of these personalities could be either and they're set and defined by profiles. If you're in WebSphere and you're used to that terminology, that's a good way to think about it. Is the D manager, the job manager, the custom node. That's the HTTP node. That's the personality, and so you can use the virtual images to conduct early and late binding. There's two different types of concepts there that you need to be aware of when you're building these images, that, hey, is this something I'm going to do all the time? Then I want to go ahead and use ICCT to early bind this into my deployment, or I want to install these binaries because they're always going to be required, like WebSphere, into the image, because that's what I'm going to deploy it for, and it just saves me deployment time because you don't have to deploy it. It's already ready and installed when the image comes out. And then there's late binding, which is stuff that may change fairly often, users, passwords, keys, certs, things like that. You can make those into script packages wrapped around scripts that you either write or that you currently have in-house. And then you can actually drag and add those to your PureApp and use those as drag and drop objects in the pattern editors to deploy your services. And this is a flow that we'll be following for the demo, which is basically import the image, extend the image, add bundles. The concept here in early binding is that you write these bundles of scripting, and then you're able to deliver, and it's a tar of the package, and then all the files arrive at once, and you can make metadata around that to help describe how to actually deploy and use that file. And then the machine will actually capture that back into the new image in this synchronize and capture process, which actually realizes the machine. It realizes your scripting. If there's an error, it stops, and you go correct the error, and you'll have to synchronize. And then once you've gotten all your errors worked out and you know that your scripting works and you're satisfied with the machine, you capture it back. And it will actually do the extend capture process, which is a normal part of the iPaaS and the iPaaS legacy products. It's been around for a while, that term, extend and capture. And so that means that the machine is actually going to pull this image in binaries, ones and zeros, back to the iPaaS after it's tokenized to all its identity values. In other words, it's cleansed itself of its identity, and you can add a new identity like hostname and IP, etc., the next deployment. And then that will actually appear in your catalog, and you can use that to drag into a new pattern, deploy an instance. And I'll walk you through doing all of that right in the demo. So there's shared services associated on the system side that can be deployed by the administrator to help conserve resources and to help regulate usage. So let's say you have a dev team and they're all going to be testing caching functionality of their application, and you don't want 200 caching servers. It just becomes ridiculous after a while, and you're never really going to work. The one dev is never really going to work as one caching server to its fullest potential. The real thing to do is create a shared service, which is a virtual application of the caching server, which will scale and meet demand and shrink when demand decreases to help conserve resources. And now the whole team can point to that endpoint that you give them as their caching proxy or their proxy service, or Tivoli monitoring if you so choose, and that service can then be used by the whole team as a function of their application without them having to worry about number one, deployment of it, and number two, how much are they using, because it's only going to use what they use at the time, and then shrink up and down according to the service level agreements that you set at deployment. So the monitoring for the PureApp can both come in the form of a deployed TM shared service or in the monitoring built into the box itself. You can use the ITM shared service to monitor. It has an agent that will called the PureApplication monitoring agent that will monitor the PureApp box entirely for you, like how much RAM and storage and temperature issues and other situation type events that are normal type of ITM type events. And it comes with over 24 of those events pre-programmed into the agent. So you can sort of find one that, if it doesn't do exactly what you want, might do almost what you want, tweak it a little bit after you make a copy. So the actual ICCT demo, I need to share my screen with. I'm just going to do that, and if one of the Avnet people could let me know that it actually works, I'll share the whole desktop. And that you guys are seeing my desktop.
Coming up.
Okay, cool. So here's the PureApp system, and so the idea is I want to do some ICCT work. How do I get this done? I want to create my own image with my own stuff installed on it that it's not something that IBM delivers. And in this case, it's going to be WAMC. WAMC is not a deliverable HPE from IBM, but we can go make one. So what I would do is I would log in. I would go over to my patterns area, and in the drop-down, I would select the actual virtual application pattern, and then come over here. And I've just done this on tabs because it takes a little while to change screens. I'm quite a ways away from the server, but to save time. But this really is the server. So I select the ICCT virtual application pattern, right? Okay, and then I'll deploy it. And I can name it whatever I want. So I'm just going to name it ICCT2 so it won't freak out. And because I've already got one named that, I am bound by, this is resource restriction, I'm bound to this set of resources. If I could change it, but I can't because I'm locked in. I can change the priority if I want to. I'm going to keep it high so that I get my stuff done first. If I happen to wanted to ever log in with a SSH, I would get the key now. I can add a key later, actually, once it's deployed. But I'm not really interested in logging in SSH. I just want to use the tool. And so then I would click deploy instead of cancel. And then the deploy, when it would finish, it takes about 15 or 20 minutes or so. And I pulled a Julia child here. We have one in the oven. And so it will come out looking like this. And this is the actual screen here. And I just want to use my tool. So here's my endpoint. And from my endpoint, I can click that link, and it will actually take me to the image construction tool. Let me go to the welcome screen for you so you can see what it's like. So this is what it's like. And I used a certificate to log in. That's why there's no user and password. I can only log in from the link directed there from the iPaaS through the certificate. If I try to just paste that link into a browser after I've closed my login to the iPaaS, I can't get in. So anyway, first thing I want to do is go create my software bundle. What am I going to install, right? And IBM provides quite a few software bundles. So by default, these are all the activation engine bundles. The IBM has this tool called the activation engine, and that's what does all the tokenization and cleansing of the identities when the machine is ready to be recaptured back, and it gives it its identity when it's ready to deploy it out. So, and you can leverage that yourself with your own scripting. There's ways that you can make it, the activation engine, perform your logic for you during the deploy. If there was something that you happen to want to happen before the machine is live on the network, let's say make sure all these RPMs are installed before the IPv4 network will open up and the machine can talk. Other than to the management system, it will install all that stuff so you don't get caught in a security scan or something like that. So just a common use case. So here's my bundle that I made, and it's the installables from IBM. It's a response file that that I edited. Yes, WordPad. There you go. It's nothing special, right? And I can make this password. I could store this encoded if I wanted. I don't have to do it in plain text. And then some install logic to tell it how to use this response file in these, and a little bit of cleanup. Basically, when it's done, I delete my stuff and start the server, of course. And the only command that I have to worry about is the install sh. I just let my script do all my other work. If I wanted to add other tasks to turn on different other services, I can add it here. I would have to write just a small script to detail maybe the command, etsy init IP tables, whatever. And speaking of IP tables, I effectively disabled the firewall by opening all the ports. But I could select this down to individuals or ranges or whatever, and I could populate this with as many of these as I want with this add button over here. And then the reset is part of the cleanup. Clean up behind yourself, remove installable files, remove files that may have passwords, even though they're encoded or whatever. You still don't want to leave them laying around. Delete all that type of stuff when it's done capturing the image so that it doesn't end up on your final product. But my logic actually goes and cleans up behind itself as it goes anyway, so I didn't have any of that. So now that I have my bundle, and I can actually share these if I wanted. I could export and share these with friends or coworkers, or you know what I'm saying, your teammates and whatnot, who you might have something cool and they might have something cool, put it together, and it might really be a solution. So now that I have my bundle, I go over to my image, and I can actually see this is already created to slave to my PureApp. So I can go pull images directly from my PureApp that are already in existence in the catalog, and I can narrow the search down a little bit, so with a unique character string, and pick an image. I can add up to 5 at once, and the reason why it's a 5 at once limit is because it's using SCP, and there's some file size limits. Even though they're huge, there's some file size limits and stuff you don't want to hit around like 70 or 80 gig or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but there's some kind of limit between the box and it about it wanting to not accept such a large file size. So anyway, at 5 at the time, you can go get another 5 and another 5 and another 5, but typically I only work with 1 or 2. And then click the import button, and it'll actually call out to my iPads and pull the image, or actually pull an image and metadata about it to me. So I would then actually highlight the image. It would be this, and then click the extend button, which is right here, and that's going to realize the image for me on my iPads and let me try to perform some logic on it. I can either go add users, change file systems, whatever I want. I can go edit anything I want about the machine as long as I don't touch the activation engine, because that's what it's going to use to do the magic. And then or make it so that it can't connect with SSH or something like that. Then you would you would add software bundles. Notice that this one doesn't have any and personalities, you would want to go change these. Remember how I said before that the different aspects of what's going to deploy on the machine depends on what type of personalities you can add here. And I can add all of this by editing with the edit button. And this is what you would come out with for my particular solution. So I added the appliance management bundle, and the machine itself added the enablement bundle. And I changed the personality just because I wanted, it's actually still the same personality, believe it or not. I just changed the name because when this comes out on the PureApp pattern deployment screen, I want it to say WebSphere Plant, what it really is, so it's not confusing about 400 different images that are all Core OS. That gets very confusing. So it's canonically named, and then still has all the products and licenses associated with it that it did before. I didn't have to add any licensing because we own Data Power, and Data Power gives you auto license. It's the only way to be able to use WAMC. So there's no license associated with it, but if there was one, I could add it. If I wanted to change the hardware size, WAMC is not a big workhorse, so I didn't make a big machine. But that's the actual machine that got captured back from my editing. The one thing I didn't show is the adding the bundle. I'll show that real quick, and then we'll go look at the image. So, why isn't the edit button working? The joys. So, actually we'll have to extend this to edit it, and it takes just a little bit of time, so I'm going to skip that for right now. But the actual machine that got deployed is right here, and so I made this machine from this pattern, and can't quite reach it there because there we go. And this pattern was created like this. I'm going to add a pattern by pressing the green arrow over here, the green plus button over here, and then naming it whatever. I named it WAMC. And then I can put in a unique search string to shorten my list. So I'm going to drag it through everything. This is the most recent, see it's version 2.104. That's the most recent one that I made. So drag that guy over. And notice that it's called it by name. That's what changing that personality name is sort of important if you want it to be called differently. And then edit the values. I can add, but you don't have to edit these other values. They're a product of the core image. They're used in certain virtual applications, but they're locked, so you'll never see them during deployment. The ones that you do have to edit are all marked with stars. I can edit these with the password values, lock them down so that the pattern deployer doesn't see the password value or know the password. These are actually not in text anyway, so it's not like somebody's going to look over your shoulder and see them. And then press deploy once I was done editing, like this. Just click the done editing. It saves those values for me. I click deploy. Well, this morning misbehaved. There we go. And then give it a name. If you give it any name I wanted, WAMC would probably be nice. And then edit the password values and press OK if they weren't already edited. And then what that will deliver is the machine that we saw here, right? And then what that actually delivers is the virtual machine here. So this is the actual machine, and I populated it with some data power machines so that you can see that it really works. And then I could do my development or whatever that I need for WAMC, managing my data power stuff. And then at the end of the day, when I'm done, I can just highlight my WAMC machine and return the resources back to the cloud. Right? So that other people can use resources. And so that's the leverage, the value to be leveraged. There's also a Maximo pattern that IBM offers other different patterns other than WebSphere, just BPM, things like that. Matt, that's really it for the ICCT demo. I still have other stuff if people want to look at. I don't know where you want to flow from here. I can show the pattern development kit and the virtual pattern development kit, and maybe how to change the install location for something if anyone's interested. Or
Yeah,
if there's questions.
I think that'd be interesting, Julian. And we want to save the last 15 minutes for questions, so I think that'd be some interesting stuff to show.
Sure. I'm going to got just a little bit early to finish there. Sorry, I talked too fast. So this is the actual ICCT that I deployed in our demo, right? This is the virtual app that did it, and this is an Eclipse tool, by the way, and it's free from IBM. You can go download it, DevWorks. Get the most recent version, please. And so anyway, I can go talk to my cloud. I've got this guy hooked up to my virtual pattern development kit, right? And so I can push these two debug plugins out to my pattern development kit because it helps me stop the patterns in mid-deploy. When there's an error, I can go fix the error on the machine in deployment and then launch it back into flight again, which you can't do without the plugin, without the development plugins, the debug plugins. So anyway, I can go, it's just like the ICCT, I can go get stuff from, let's say I have an image that or a plugin that I think works almost right, but IBM's got it installed in the wrong place, or I want to change how the machine, I want to give it more disk space, I want to give it more RAM, whatever you want to change. You can actually go get the, let's just pull one out of the blue here, monitoring. There's the monitoring plugin. I can just say next, I'll call it monitoring, finish, it's going to populate right over here. So while that's populating, go look at what I was claiming I'd show you, which is the, it won't let me. All right, and well, there's the monitoring, right? And so there's the whole plugin for that. So the ICCT plugin, most of the data about the machine is contained in this metadata.json file inside the plugin, so that's really the first place to go, because that contains the personality, right? And then the personality is really the application that's going to be deployed, the action that you want this plugin to do. So, and in here, the reason why I say that most of the information is contained here is because here's the links to all the other files that I'm really interested in, right? And so I can either go graphically here and change these values are tied to other, you see they're parameter ties, they're tied to other values later. But I can either do it through the GUI or I can do it through the actual command line, go into the file here and edit where this is installed. And so this says it's installed in IBM Installation Manager Eclipse. And so then I would change this if I installed my Eclipse. If I had my installation manager somewhere else, I could change this value. These are escape characters because it doesn't know how to deal with the Unix backslash. So, but yeah, if I wanted to change it, I'd just go change it, right? Just like that. And then, boom, it's if that's where my stuff was, or if it was in my home directory, or whatever value that I wanted to reflect. Press save. I'm done. I could reload the once I was done, I could reload the. I don't want to break it, so I have to change it back. I don't want. I could reload the project just like this. I just go into the toolkit, install the update to the deployer, get it to run in the background so we don't have to watch it. But it's going to go rebuild the plugin for me, and then if the plugin was successful, then it's going to try to install. If the build was successful, it's going to try to install it into my development environment, and then I can go deploy it and make sure that it works. And so that's just for install location. If you wanted other things like, let's say I wanted to change, every aspect of how this thing was installed. I don't think that IBM, this is a default plugin from IBM, by the way. I don't think that IBM did any of it right. None of it's to my liking. I can go and change. This is the actual response file that's being used for the install. To change everything, right? My repository isn't in temp icon. Let's say that it's a mount directory, app / WAMC / binaries or whatever, right? So, I want different installation location. I want it to be called different. I want it to, there is no value about the install that you can't change here. So just come in here, change what you need, rebuild the file, send it back up, and wait for the success message in the console, and it will be in your virtual plugin development environment, which looks really similar to the iPaaS, right? They try to make it as close as possible. Even the versioning numbers down here on the bottom are close to the same. Sorry, my little thing's covering that up. But notice that it's got all of the other aspects that you can have access to on the workload console. There's only a few differences about what it can't. I was messing around with some integration bus patterns the other day that you can't actually tweak that would really reflect in a one-to-one basis to the iPaaS. There are a few differences, but not many, because it's not really iPaaS, right? So there are some what I would call physical differences. This is a virtual machine. There's nothing physical to it, so any of those would be different. But that gives. I've talked this almost right up to the line, Matt. So.
All right, that's good. That's good. Well, I wanted to open it up for questions, and Jen, you want to unmute folks so that they can ask, or should they type into the chat window?
Yeah, so I'll unmute the line.
The conference has been unmuted.
There you go. I did have a few questions come in directly to me, actually for Matt, so I'll go ahead and ask a couple of those, and then if you guys want to chime in. So Matt, how much does your training typically cost?
Good question. So you can find our public classes right on our website, and that is academy.avnet.com/US or /CA for the Canada website. And there are websites for each country that we do training. And the public prices are published right there, including the pricing for the self-paced classes. In general, a private class will cost about 6 to 8 times the cost of a public class, depending on the size of the class. Private class pricing will range from at the bottom about 6 students to a top level of 12 students. And on our PureApp classes, we are specifically limited to 12 students to ensure a good learning environment for everyone. And it maxes out at lower than the per student price of public classes when you look at getting 12 students into a private class.
And then actually in regards to the PureApp classes, how long are those classes that you talked about for PureApp?
Oh, sorry, I probably should have mentioned that in the roadmap. So the one-day self-paced is 8 hours, and actually you have 30 days over which to complete that self-paced at your own pace. Once you validate a token for the LMS, which you have a year before it expires, then there's a 30-day period over which you can complete that 8-hour training. For the instructor-led training, those are typically a 3-day class for the pattern development class and a 2-day class for the PureApp Systems administration class. And with customization, we can tweak those durations in private classes and have done some different configurations. Like one class Julian was doing last week, we had 2 back-to-back half-day classes because they couldn't afford to have the whole team out and not supporting the infrastructure at the same time. So that worked out pretty well.
Great. Are there any questions on the line? Okay, and then I have one more. How much lead time do you need to set up training?
So it can vary. I mean, we've been able to move as fast as 2 weeks, but ideally, it's more like 3 weeks at least for private classes. For public classes, those are published right on the website, and you'll see that for both the classes that we mentioned that are instructor-led, we have dates in April, May, and June published for those classes. The self-paced you can take anytime and register for anytime.
Great. And do we have any questions on the line? Okay. Well, I think we can wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for attending our webinar. And if you have any questions, you can follow up with the Avnet email address that was provided, or you'll be getting a thank you email following this webinar.
And we will send out a recording here shortly, so if you want to share with friends and colleagues, please do. Thank you all.
Thank you.